This is me, writer, photographer, and traveler extraordinaire. But I wasn't always like this. I used to have a job. That's right, I used to be an environmental scientist living in Alaska, but it wasn't enough. So I traded my suit and tie for a plane ticket, and I've never looked back. I've been traveling for almost a decade now, and since that time I've hiked amazing trails and bicycled across 12 countries. I've paddled Arctic water and climbed ancient glaciers. I've gone spelunking in Asia and horseback riding in South America. I've gone sailing through pirate-infested waters and surfing at the edge of the world. I've gone paragliding in Peru and explored waterfalls in the Philippines. I've seen amazing sunsets and breathtaking mountainsides. I've been a part of unique cultures and eaten strange, exotic foods. I've even listened to many different kinds of music. And of course, I've taken lots of photos along the way. Over the last 8 years, I've been to so many different places and seen so many different things, I thought it'd be a shame not to share it. So that's just what I did. So welcome and thanks for joining me, Cyle O'Donnell, as I explore and research amazing places and cultures from all over the globe. This is no tourist video. I go deep into the jungles and find wild animals. I trek out to the faraway villages and see life the way people live there. I do what they do and go where they go. I eat what they eat and sleep where they sleep. I visit distant islands and climb steaming volcanoes. And I do it all because I'm the Travel Geek. Welcome to Taiwan. This is Far East Asia's hidden gem. With some of the most welcoming and friendly people you'll ever meet, Taiwan is definitely a place that should be on your to-do list. You're not going to read a whole lot about Taiwan in the guidebooks, and it's because of that it has so much unexplored beauty.
Named to the Western colonial world as Ilha Formosa, Taiwan's first impression on Portuguese explorers was that it was an aptly named, beautiful island. Outside of mainland Chinese, Taiwan has hosted the least amount of tourists in Far East Asia, making it also one of the most accessible. And make no mistake, offering not only diverse geology, but wildly varied flora as well, Taiwan is not to be missed. While housing more than 4,000 species of plants, a quarter of which are endemic to the country, dense forests cover more than half of this island nation. Birdwatchers, bicyclists, hikers, island hoppers, water sports enthusiasts, and photo-savvy travelers are sure to find this place quite satisfying. And all this does nothing to explain the tremendous effort that the people of Taiwan put into preserving their culture and their heritage. Boasting tens of thousands of Tao and Buddhist temples, the streets of this country come alive many days each month in celebration of one or another national or international religious ceremonies. I start my trip in Taiwan's most visited natural wonder, the Taroko Gorge. From there, I endure a nauseating boat ride to Lanyu Island where I eat freshly butchered raw pig with the natives. Then it's off to Kaohsiung to hit the markets and see Taiwan's second most populated city. After that, I fly over to try my hand at windsurfing in the Penghu Islands. Once I return, I dodge live explosives at the hand-to-hand fireworks battle outside of Tainan and follow that up with a citywide temple walk in Taiwan's old capital. Then I drive high into the mountains of Alishan to catch a rare glimpse of an aerial phenomenon known as the Sea of Clouds. And finally, after a visit to the world-famous Lantern Festival in Changhua, I end my trip in the pulsing metropolis of Taipei. First thing on my agenda in Taiwan is to take a train to Hualien and rent a motorbike to drive the rest of the way to Taroko Gorge. It's a beautiful and scenic ride, so I recommend not taking a bus or a cab. Bike rentals are easy to find once you arrive at Hualien Station, and once you've selected your trusty steed, be sure to fill up with gas. There are no gas stations in or around the park.
Here I am, I finally arrived at the #1 tourist destination in Taiwan, the Taroko Gorge. This is the front entrance, and it looks like it's going to rain any minute, but luckily the rain's held off. I just got made a liar. It just started raining a little bit. That's okay. It's just going to make sure that the tourist numbers are down as I'm driving through. The best way to see the gorge is to rent a motorbike and drive all the way through all day for 500 NT or about 15 US dollars. There's taxis you can pay for, I think, in excess of probably anywhere from 75 to 90 US dollars. And then of course there are these big obnoxious tour buses piling through these tiny caves. They're really intense. They'll push you right off the road too. Gotta be careful for those. But again, I think the rain's gonna probably push a couple of people out of here and not make them want to visit any. So let's hope the park's all mine. Maybe I can camp here tonight and I don't know, we'll see. Looks like fun.
At first glance, the park looks amazing, but that's all a facade. It only gets better once you're inside the park, and those who spent thousands of Taiwanese dollars buying a bus package through this area seem to look at you with a sense of awe as you scuttle the masses and have the ability to get to those places that the buses simply can't go. The waterfalls, mountain temples, jagged formations, and sheer rock faces are only a few of the amazing offerings that you'll see in this park. For the full outtakes of my drive through the entirety of the Taroko Gorge, go to cyleodonnell.com and find the films page. While driving through, I must have counted more than a dozen tunnels, a handful of waterfalls, beautiful bridges, temples seemingly clinging to the mountainside, and all manner of natural and man-made wonders. I'll put some of the highlights here, but be sure to check on the website. There's a lot more than just outtakes, and there's also a giant gallery of photos from all over Taiwan. Everything inside the park is free, so once you're there, camping is also included in that. As long as you can find a place that's actually designated for doing so, feel free to pop a tent or stretch out in a hammock.
Okay, there's no doubt that this place is absolutely epic, but it's pretty scary too. I'm about to take the turn around this corner here and go through two caves that the sign says are absolutely treacherous. Now I have to say, so far I've already run into some stuff that looked like it was going to fall right down on my head, so this is making me a little nervous. When they actually put up signs, that kind of makes me a little more on edge, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not gonna lie, the scenery here is unbelievable. Probably why it's Taiwan's #1 tourist destination. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Climbing up this hill to the temple, I found out that it looks much smaller than it really is from the other side of the bridge. And to think of all the work that it must have taken to get all these materials up into the mountains, it's pretty impressive as well.
This is so exciting. I've been driving around the park since probably 1 o'clock this afternoon. It rained a little bit, it was spitting and on and off and things, but the park, I mean, it's unbelievable. This park is enormous. If you know anything about the Midwest US, it's kind of probably the equivalent to, say, Red River Gorge in central Kentucky. That's, I mean, it's just as beautiful, it's just as big, makes you feel just as small in nature and everything. I've already seen snakes and frogs and all kinds of birds. It's really something. It's pretty natural. About half a kilometer down the road, there's a free camping site called Lanyu camping ground, and right next to it is a trail. I've stopped here for a little bit. This is the geological center. I'm gonna go check out, I mean, obviously I'm gonna have to check out a geological center if there is one. Find out what kind of stratigraphy we have here, what kind of interplay we have. See, I kind of surmise that all of the geology around us here is the result of a mixture of volcanic and tectonic activity. And I figure, you know, I mean, the Taiwan itself sits on, it straddles the Tropic of Cancer, and the particular area where it's at, it actually sits on a fault line between the Eurasian and Philippine plates. So it's got a lot of interesting movement going on. It's very prone to earthquakes out here. I've already experienced 2 earthquakes since I've been here, and I've only been in Taiwan 9 months, 10 months, something like that. There's a lot of geological activity around here. So anyway, I'm gonna go check this geological center out, and after that I'm gonna go probably hit one more trail if it's not raining, then set up camp for the night. I'm hungry.
So this is your classic Taiwanese campground. What they like to do is they like to build these wooden platforms. There's a stone platform over there, which is the first one I've seen, but albeit it's probably made out of granite or marble or something that they, you know, chiseled out of the mountains here. So it's probably got a theme. At any rate, here I am. The air is fresh. There's a river right in front of the campground here. You can hear it. It's excellent. It's exactly what I needed to get away from all the hustle and bustle. Anyway, I'm tired and I want to put my tent together and hop in the sack. So let's go do that. That was quick and relatively painless. I love that tent. I've had it for about 8 years. It's a Eureka. I think it's called an X2. I think. It goes up in less than a minute, I think, maybe 2. It doesn't need stakes, but it has stake holes, it's got vent holes, it's got all kinds of cool stuff. Best part about it, it's got a roof and a flat part where I can pass out, which is what I'm gonna go do right now. Well, here I am. Tent's all done. Kind of tired, not really sleepy, but to be honest, it's a little warm in here. Don't really have the breeze that I have outside. Well, I got an idea. I think I'll put up the hammock. Much better. I'm not sure how much of the park I'll be able to see tomorrow. I'm not sure how much I've done so far, but I rented the bike till Friday afternoon, say 2 o'clock or so. Anyway, I think I'll relax a little bit, maybe read a little bit of my book, and I don't know, maybe I'll pass out here. The next morning I woke to the wonderful sounds of nature as my alarm clock. But instead of hopping right back on the bike and heading out, I stayed in. I ate a can of food that I'd kept for breakfast. I watched nearby waterfalls empty into the canyon, and I caught up on some journals. I even watched some feathered friends get dangerously close to the big scary human. Before long I was back at it though. I climbed right up to the top of the park, and along the way there were majestic clouds, forests teeming with the calls of wildlife, and raging rivers of epicness. Once I got to the highest point, I stopped and turned around though, because at the upper level of the park starts the Northern Cross Island Highway, and that's another trip altogether. Highly recommended. I just didn't have it on my agenda this time around. It was a wonderful trip through the gorge, and I took enough footage to make an entirely separate short film just on the park itself. So be sure to stop by cyleodonnell.com and check that out. I'm not kidding, it's awesome. There are two ways to get to Lanyu and Green Islands: by small prop jet and by boat. The prior is more expensive, but much more highly recommended. I consider myself to have a pretty strong stomach, and even having been in the Navy, this boat almost made me hurl big time. When I first boarded the boat, I wondered what all the plastic bags were for. But as my camera crew and the rest of the passengers began to start looking a bit green, I quickly figured it out. During most times of the year, the seas between the Big Island and these smaller islands are incredibly choppy, with 20-foot swells off the east coast. It's great for the surfing competitions that take place there, but this far out, they can be treacherous. If you go this route, I recommend standing on the back deck of the boat if the captain allows it. Think of it as an access point, the farther out from which the rest of the boat rocks much harder against the surf. The boats that currently make this run do so from Phuket Harbor, just outside of Tainan on Taiwan's southeast coast. Booking a boat in advance is a bit tricky here, since climate is king. And if that weren't enough, the boatmasters know they have the market cornered, so they will wait, and so will you, until the boat fills up before disembarking. The trip itself is only 65 kilometers, but the 2 hours that it takes makes it seem a bit longer. I tried to time my arrival to coincide with the Flying Fish Festival, but it turns out that I was a bit early. Nevertheless, I had a great time using this trip as a photo opportunity. The rocky cliffs on this island's coast are contrasted perfectly with the foamy, emerald blue water constantly crashing up against it. The geology is great too. The rock formations that have been chewed and chiseled for thousands of years left the feeling that some grand carpenter had been at work, and who finally passed on just before his masterpiece was realized. The mountains have deep chasms, the crags and crevasses are jagged and alien, and the only part of the island that could be built upon had to be fortified by large concrete jacks that added even more of an allure to the place. But all my nerdy musings about the amazing geology aside, this island has a lot to offer. So I immediately hopped on a motorbike and drove around to check out the sights. In my short visit, I found out a lot about the culture, the cuisine, and especially about the people. Firstly, the people are absolutely splendid. They're helpful and accommodating. There's very little English spoken here, but they've made it a habit of renting out homestays. And if you're not too particular on luxury, you'll do fine in the housing they offer. The original inhabitants of this volcanic island, who migrated from the Bataan archipelago some 800 years ago, are called the Yami. This designation, as well as the name Lanyu Island, is a Taiwanese creation. The Taiwanese originally thought that they must have been Japanese fishermen who'd lost their way. But they actually share a stronger descendant lineage with Filipinos and are genetically more Austronesian, sharing linguistic and cultural ties to the Ivatan people of the Batanes Islands in the Philippines. And in addition to this significant difference, they call themselves Tao, which simply means the people. In fact, their name for the island, Panso no Tao, means Island of the People. In Taiwanese, Lanyu refers to the wild orchids that grow here, and which have been picked by the Taiwanese people to near extinction. The people live pretty slowly paced lives here. But this really isn't surprising, having an island lifestyle. They like to go hiking in the mountains and exploring the island's deep caves and majestic waterfalls. They like to make handicrafts and fabrics. They enjoy snorkeling and water sports in their very unique wooden boats. And they also like to engage in sports like basketball and soccer. This island first appeared on Japanese maps dating back to the 17th century, and the island had been known to Filipinos as Bototabago. It was therefore transcribed as Tabakoshima, and it was called Kotosho during Japanese rule over Taiwan until after World War II when China took over in 1945. And while the Japanese exacted harsh and deplorable punishment over much of other parts of Asia during this time, they left Lanyu pretty well alone, seeing it more as a cultural oddity that ultimately posed no threat to their campaign of domination in the region. After Taiwan gained a foothold over their independence in the 1960s, the tribes living here were absorbed into Taiwanese heritage and were simply considered to be indigenous people of aboriginal descent. After that, their history would take a drastic turn. Taiwan originally tried to breed out the genetic difference of the people here by offering incentives to mainlanders to come and live on the island. The Yami were very resistant, and this had consequences that are still present today. But that's not surprising, as Taiwan has made Mandarin compulsory, ordered the complete replacement of all traditional homes with concrete housing, and the absolute removal of the Yami's cultural past, which has been exchanged for the newer, more Chinese-influenced traditions. And if that wasn't enough to leave a bad taste in the mouths of the natives, Taiwan also used Lanyu Island as their chemical and nuclear waste dump, which they told the locals was a fishing cannery, and which contained no less than 100,000 barrels of radioactive refuse that has since started to leak and caused myriad health problems here. While on my motorbike tour, I scoped out a few choice spots to take some pictures. And since the weather is unpredictable here, setting up in windy and rainy conditions is a bit tricky. But climbing up onto abandoned trucks, water dikes, mountains, and mysterious rock formations was a lot of fun. And I came away with some decent images too. Check out cyleodonnell.com for that album. It contains a small gallery of high dynamic range photography, and while it was shot in the rainier season, I think it captures the more restive moments in this island's somber history. I must have made 3 or 4 passes around the island before I left. If you're driving straight through, the circumference can be driven in about an hour, and it's a nice ride. While the roads aren't well maintained, they're also not heavily trodden, so wear is minimal. If you decide to go off the main road, however, you'll find lots of unexpected gems, including a chance to drive to the southern portion of the island's tallest mountain. This overlooks the harbor, at which all manner of goods and all boat passengers arrive, and which serves as the emergency port in times of tsunamis, earthquakes, and tropical storms. And once you get to the top, you'll see a lighthouse, ocean as far as the eye can see, and a breathtaking vista of the villages and mountainscape below. On the day that I was supposed to head back to the mainland, the weather had taken a turn for the worst, making the waters unsafe to travel, and, as is common, the trip was delayed by a day. But while I was thinking that this was an inconvenience, it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. That same day, the camera crew and I were invited to indulge in a huge honor that is not typically extended to visitors here. The family that I was staying with got us up to tell us that we'd be spending the first part of the day drinking and prepping for a huge feast, and then we'd enjoy the spoils of this labor. What they didn't tell us is that they'd be butchering a 100-pound swine right in front of us. But no matter, it's all part of the experience. I'll save the more vivid shots for the extended cut and for the outtakes that will be posted on the website, but just know that it was a truly humbling honor to feel so appreciated and welcomed into this amazing culture. And this last gesture really brought home just how nice the Tao people really are.
I've been given some traditional breads and some heated soybean milk, which is really good, and I've been asked to also eat part of the liver that's being cut open right now. It's a pretty big honor. It's also a huge honor to be able to photograph. So we've really been lucky in meeting some genuinely welcoming people. It's been a real treat.
Oh yeah. I want coffee here.
That's your coffee? What is this called?
From Taiwan.
Oh, it's from
Paulita.
The name is
Paulita.
Paulita. All right. Well.
Oh, Changhua.
It's a way to start off the morning, huh? Come on.
Do it.
Hey, come back.
Well, that'll do. Oh, I have no idea what this is. Nor do I know whether or not it's full of worms,
I was actually eating the whiter meat found around the shoulder of the pig, and later I'd eat part of its liver.
a very highly revered thing. You're the first taster of the pig there.
But the best part of the meal came when the entire family sat down to enjoy conversation and the combination of pork and locally endemic potatoes, which were very good when combined with the heavy broth that's made from native herbs.
Yeah, very good. Very good. 建议还是买一哇哇，要不要先好？要先。
If you decide to come for a visit to Lanyu Island and Green Island to the north, please show respect for the customs and heritage that's here, and the Yami people will be sure to treat you like family. Unless you live in Kaohsiung, there's really not a lot to do here that can't be found elsewhere. On the other hand, it is the second most populated city in Taiwan, so there are lots of festivals and parades throughout the year. And you can always enjoy watching the motorbikes get towed away from outside McDonald's, or you can visit Lotus Lake or take a boat cruise down the Love River. But since I have lots of footage of city stuff elsewhere, I'll leave that to your imagination and show you my favorite part of the city.
Here we are at my favorite place in Asia, the market. Let's go and see what they got.
Asia's markets are jam-packed with just about every part of just about every animal you can think of, and Taiwan is no exception. From bugs to sharks, you can find it all in these crowded, noisy places.
These are excellent. These are pastries with different kinds of meats and cheeses and this fuzzy stuff that looks like it comes out of a cotton farm or something. It's got asparagus, everything from seaweed to corn. My favorite little corner. The lady's not here today. She usually has everything from cow's hearts to pig's lungs and stuff hanging from hooks on this side here. Now these are roosters, male chickens here. I almost never get any of this stuff. To be honest, it kind of scares me. I'm a little freaked out by black chickens. Look at this stuff. Look at this head over here. No thanks. So I got all this for 300 NT. 300 NT is about $9. Plums. They're generally pretty fresh, but the last time I got something here that had worms in it, so we'll see if this time it's okay. So these are dragon fruit, very strange fruits here. Get one of these home and cut it open. They're purple inside with black seeds. Very interesting. So to get a certain amount of something, you don't know how to ask for it, just hold out money and they'll weigh how much you give them. If I can find 50 NT, let's see what that buys me. So I'm going to get 100 NT worth of these carrots. They're really good. Really bold flavor. When you pay for food in Taiwan, it's very good to get the money with both hands. Shows that you have some respect for people. The most important word in the Taiwanese language is alright. So this is tripe or cow's stomach. That's pretty strange. One of the strangest things they sell here. But you can also get fresh squid. Probably got this morning. All kinds of different mussels. Fish, I don't know what this is. These are really good. These are different types of sausages mixed up into one long sheet of skin, and then they put seaweed and little bits of vegetables in there. Here they got some tuna, it looks like. The tuna is pretty expensive in the market. This one right here probably costs, say, 200. Just gonna see how much it is. Oh yeah, 420. That's more than twice as much as I thought it was. 谢谢。谢谢。So this is your spice, all your spicing. You got garlic, everything from peanuts and peanut shells to like the onion bases. Really good peppers. These peppers are awesome. And then of course, you know, ginseng. And can we? Geez, that's so expensive. This is much more expensive than it normally is. Yeah, right. This is whitefish, yeah? Codfish?
Oh, whitefish.
Yeah. No, okay, thank you. I always see these fish swimming around in the lakes and things. You know, I think they're brackish water, so they're scary looking too. He's gonna go. He wants to go back in the water. There it goes. Okay, see you. Taiwanese people love these cute little fluffy dogs. So annoying. They're everywhere. They get little strollers for them and they put boots on them and sweaters and stuff. Pretty annoying.
This one is here.
Oh, carrot. Okay. I'll take carrot.
Here.
There you go. Yeah. We got carrot juice and watermelon juice. This is nectarine juice. And what is this?
This
guava. Okay. Okay, thank you.
okay.
These little delicacies are one of my favorites. They're onion pancakes, and while they can be baked, generally they're fried. It's mostly egg batter, which has a rice base that's flattened out and cooked. Then they throw a bunch of veggies in them and wrap them up. It's the greasy version of health food.
It's a pig? Pork? Oh yeah, that is. It's like glazed pork. Okay, you make a salad, yeah? What do you have? I hate being around the room. So, this is the highlight of any market. We've got our hearts, and then my all-time favorite, penises. It's always good. And then the inside of the stomach. Very tasty, huh? Wow, what a ride. Markets are noisy and smelly and all kinds of stuff, but they're very efficient and they're very cheap. I think I spent a total of about $12 in there, maybe as much as 15. I got tons of fruit, a whole chicken, set for all weekend, I think. Throw some rice on, make some quick meals. Markets are awesome. Time to head home.
My next stop on this trip was to be the sunny, sandy, windy beaches of the Penghu Islands. My first clue that this was going to be an amazing trip was this breathtaking sculpture of a dragon writhing around the central column to the waiting lounge that I saw as soon as I arrived to the airport. For Penghu, I planned on driving a motorbike around the islands, windsurfing, and taking photos of all the geological oddities unique to this area. After just a short wait, we climbed aboard a prop jet that would be taking us to the illustrious Penghu Islands. The flight wasn't full, but it can pack up quickly during the high tourist season. The flight is among the easiest you'll ever take. Bad weather might make this trip about 45 minutes, but in most cases it takes a half an hour. During low tourist season, a ticket can be purchased the same day as the flight. But just to be sure, call ahead or stop by the domestic counters at the Kaohsiung International Airport a day in advance to reserve your seat. It's free to reserve a seat, and the ticket costs around 1,000 NT. The people at the ticket counters speak English pretty well, but savor it, because it will be the last time that you hear it spoken with such fluency until your return. The islands themselves are gorgeous from the air. When you land, you'll want to wait until the taxis pick up all the air traffic, and then take the city bus, which is much cheaper. I took the bus to the center of town, found and booked a hotel room, and dropped off my things inside of an hour. After that, I headed out to see the sights. Alright, so here I am. I have done quite a bit since I got to the airport. After I landed, I hopped on a bus that took me into town. Much cheaper than taking a taxi. A taxi would be somewhere around, was it 300 NT or something, which is about $9. And for the ride, not only is the bus super cheap, it's like 23 NT, it's also got much better views. I've never felt quite so foreign in my life. I feel very confident saying that than before I came here. I've interacted with at least 100 people since I've been here, and of them, only one spoke English, and that was because they actually called their friend who was the token English-speaking friend of theirs. So very difficult, extremely difficult to get around. Very cumbersome to try to communicate. I was able to get a hotel. I also secured a motorbike for the next 3 days, but that took some serious finagling. When I read the latest Lonely Planet Taiwan, it says that you can kind of sort one out for about 400 NT a day, which is true, but what they don't tell you, and this may simply have changed since it was published, but nobody rents to foreigners here. The way that it worked out that I got this bike was that the manager of the hotel that I just set up
actually rented the bike in her name and kind of asked me to drive carefully. You know, apparently there have been a couple of foreigners who've wrecked the bike and not done a very good job at paying back those fees. It's a nice backyard. So anyway, there's nothing I can do, so grabbed a quick bite to eat, and now I'm headed to the salty air of the beach. I don't know if you can see that beach line out there, but there are no trees. And that means I will not be able to use my hammock. This is not cool. I can say that the weather is absolutely beautiful. It's the warmest it's been all year. I'm thinking about going into the water too. You can see jet skiers and stuff out in the water. It's definitely a vacation spot for Taiwanese, if not Chinese people, to come and do whatever Chinese and Taiwanese people do. It seems kind of vacant. There's a lot of construction. There's a lot of schools all over the place. A lot of military. This is basically a huge base.
I wasn't kidding either. With all the not quite hidden bunkers, the eerie lookout towers overlooking the roadways, and the miles upon miles of inconspicuous barbed wire cressing the tops of the ominously painted walls, this place has the look and feel of a communist complex, and it has Cold War era Chinese paranoia written all over it. After my musings about what a giant military compound the Penghu Islands actually are, I took a quick dip in the frigid waters and headed back to the road. With little else going on, I realized pretty quickly that I was going to have to invent my own kind of fun. So if you come here, you'd do well to bring a surfboard or a PSP or a few good books. They really don't cater to Western entertainment at all. On the other hand, if you enjoy just getting away from the crowds and going to a place where no one will bother you, this is definitely your spot. And if you enjoy motorcycle riding on relatively safe roads with plenty of amazing sights, you could also have a really nice time here. There are temples all over the place, there are agricultural cutaways and tiny little villages. There are amazing geological structures, and the oddest things seem to come out of nowhere. For instance, there's the random sea-painted wall, in front of the sea no less. There's the Santa Fe-esque construction with the most peculiar of Asian twists. Shown here, I can't tell if this is a giant lighthouse or a restaurant. There's the Torii-inspired Shinto gates. There's the random Chinese gravesite amid giant aloe plants. There's even motorcycle military exercises taking place. But I must say, for me, there's nothing more interesting than these strange hexagonal-shaped volcanic rocks that are all but chewed away from the time that this place was first pushed up from the sea floor. I'll see much more of these along my trip through these islands, mostly as columnar basalt formations. On my ride back through the small town toward my hotel, I heard this crazy clanging and banging that I wanted to check out. It turned out that it was in the middle of this monastery. When I arrived, I enjoyed an amazing show.
Yeah.
As it turns out, this ceremony was being timed so that it ended with the sunset. So, happily, I not only got a nice surprise before I headed back to the hotel, but I also got this amazing view before resting up for my next day in the Penghu Islands. I woke up early the next morning to head farther north into the islands. Not knowing where I would end up, I went ahead and reserved a room for another night. And this is an easy thing to do, since from just about anywhere on the islands, it's not too far to return from where you started. Stopping to take some photos of the local boat dock, I was greeted by a new friend that I've never seen before, at least not in person.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a pufferfish chasing a bug.
It was really cool seeing this animal in the wild, but at the same time, it was really sad to see it in what is also its natural environment, for which we clearly have no respect. The Penghu Islands are known for their temple competition. It's a lot like Keeping Up with the Joneses. Long ago, the wealthier families on the island would put up an illustrious castle-like temple, and another family would challenge them a few years later. Soon enough, the number of temples here was staggering. The ratio in the Lonely Planet puts the per-resident average somewhere near 10-to-1, meaning that for every 10 residents, there's a temple somewhere in Penghu. And they're not kidding. From shrines and corner prayer buildings to 3- and 5-story behemoth, this place is littered with monasteries and religious places of worship. Just before exiting the southernmost island on the northbound road, I came across this Goliath monastery with a Tao statue of Lao Tzu on the top. The statue itself spoke of the grand theme of that monastery's supporters, who no doubt wanted to instill that grandiosity in the feel of this fulsome place. However, as I understand the Tao religion, it's not about giant statues so much as it is about simplicity, moderation, and humility. It seems that they must have expanded upon what they believe those definitions to be. On the other hand, the dedication that must have gone into the intricate carvings and sculptures of this place must have brought humility to someone, even down to each dime-sized tile that's handmade and used for a specific spot on a wall or a statue. It's amazing to see what really goes into these places, especially when you consider the fact that there's at least one big temple every few miles. Talking to one of the monks, I found out that there would be a play later that night on the stage that was being constructed at the end of the parking lot. So I quietly thanked myself for reserving another night in the hotel room and headed back to the highway to continue northbound. Once back on the roadway, I started to see these little off-shooting roads abutted by stone walls and jutting off into these little mini villages. I decided to drive around in one, and I found out that they're really cool. Driving down these tiny roads, whenever you think they're about to dead end, the little alleyway just turns in one direction or another, leading you deeper into the neighborhood. They were replete with their own little shrines and ancient-looking houses that were constructed of concrete and rock, and many of the rooftops were long since collapsed. I was just beginning to wonder when this little meandering path would end when I found out.
Hello. Does it stop right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I turned around, I thought I retraced my steps, but it turns out that I actually made a giant shortcut on my trip. I ended up coming out near Amen Beach, which was right next to my next destination, the windmills. Along this road there are 2 bulbous land jetties. These are said to be the windiest area of any place on the 4 islands. So this site meant that I was about halfway around to the opposite end in the chain of these broken chunks of the big island, Penghu Island.
So I'm here at a familiar site. It's the automated roadway manager. They love doing this. They put up a mannequin and have a couple of flags and make a move, put up a sign or 2. Hilarious.
Crossing over the northernmost portion of the Big Island, travelers are rewarded with this amazing bridge. It's called the Great Bridge or the Trans-Ocean Bridge. It's a beautiful bridge, and it's apparently replaced an older bridge which still has remnants along the side. Driving along the bridge, there are amazing views of the ocean on either side. You can see the ruins of the old bridge and even a portion of the old landmass that used to support it. Some of the eroded seafloor is shallow enough for algae and other plant life to take hold. But what's probably the coolest part about this bridge is that it seems to separate two worlds here on the island. Whereas the southern part of the island is full of interesting sights born of human creativity, the northern part of the island boasts a more natural side. So that was very cool. I got to see basically all of the major islands from across the Penghu Great Bridge, which is a beautiful bridge. It's obviously been rebuilt a couple of times and full of interesting additives and great views all over the place. Anyway. Right around the corner after the bridge is one of those cool geological structures that I mentioned earlier. This one was an archway made of those columnar basalt formations I talked about. It was complemented by a nearby museum that talked about all the amazing geology of the Penghu Islands. It's called the Xiaomen Geology Museum. It's open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and it costs 20 NT to enter. It's highly recommended for the like-minded geo geeks out there. Surrounding it on all sides is this really cool little farming village. So getting there is fun because you get to ride through this town, and when you arrive, you can either go through the museum to the stairway leading up to the cliff, or you can make your way around through the little alleyway filled with little restaurants to accommodate the visitors. You can climb up to the top of the archway if you want, or you can do what I did and take lots of really cool photos. Columnar basalt forms when lava rapidly cools and hardens after it's been spilled up from the sea floor. And because this area sits at the edge of the Eurasian fault line, there is, or at least there was at one time, a lot of seismic activity which pushed formations like this up above sea level. Most of the formations in this area appear to have hardened below the surface and were pushed up later, contributing to the pressure that created the denser rocks that you see here. Be sure to check out cyleodonnell.com for extra footage of this area, for a short moving stills film with many of the HDR photos that I took here, and for a gallery of all the images from the Penghu Islands. After exploring the archway, I headed further back into the last section of the Big Island and ascended this abandoned military lookout point which overlooks Tortoise Island. It was a spectacular view, but there was the ever-present reminder of a much more They aren't even well fortified, really, for the late 1800s, early 1900s. Ultimately, what we're talking about is Japanese Navy cannon fire, which by the time it got up here, I don't know how much it would need to do. It's got 1 foot of concrete and mostly exposed. Who knows? I'm no military strategist. Anyway, hell of a view though. Across the way is Tortoise Island or something. Looks like it's got a head poking up. See if I can get it on camera here. Now that would be the head, and that would be the body. Tortoise Island. After the gloomy Tortoise Island wartime reminder, I headed to my last destination for the day before heading back to catch the play that was going on back at the temple. And, as if to add insult to injury, my next and final location for the day was another amazing and beautiful site ruined by military activity. This time a bit more recent.
In classic Asian form, here's the lighthouse that I've been looking for the last hour. And it's behind a military encampment. Here's your lighthouse. Enjoy it, folks. It's got this white picket fence. It's on the other side of this military base. It's lovely.
I have no idea what it is about the visual preference of foreign peoples, but sometimes the most egregious eyesore in one place just ain't so bad in another. And Asian complacency in this manner is the only explanation I can think of for this example, and I wish I could say it was uncommon, but no matter where I've been in the 16 Asian countries I've visited so far, this is really just par for the course. People here simply shrugged off the 30mm guns and radioactive power station right behind them as they were cheesing for a picture in front of this lighthouse. It's funny the things that stick out in one's mind throughout all the memories of travel. For now, it's off to see a show. This show was so incredible. It was like watching a soap opera the way that they were originally made. And I'm not talking about daytime TV in the 80s either. I'm not even talking about the Old West where you could go to the theater house after gambling and drinking at the saloon to catch the latest play. I'm talking about 1,000 years ago when actors in elaborate costumes and makeup would entertain the emperor, or maybe in some far-off village amid the bamboo thicket where the local townspeople would get together and share an evening of entertainment while acting out the history of their ancestors or a great battle or something. This was definitely one of those events that brought me back in time, to a place I've only read about. And speaking of reading, the series of books that I have in mind when I'm thinking about this scene is the 5-volume set of The Tales of the Atori. These were written by Leon Hearn. She spent many months in Japan researching for her novels, and they read like an elongated poem. Beautiful books which paint images much like I'd imagine I'm seeing here.
Well, here I am on my last day in Penghu, and the weather doesn't look like it's all that, what's the word, amiable for traveling out to the islands. I don't want to get out to one of those smaller islands and it, really come down on me. So I'm going to hedge my bets on finding some windsurfing today. Unfortunately, I'm at the same place I was yesterday where everybody was windsurfing, and nobody's here. Not only that, but there's no wind, so that's going to impede things quite a bit too. This is kind of a huge, I would call it a bay if all of the islands were connected. I'd call it an inlet if it attached itself to something of a larger body of land, which it isn't. So I don't know what you'd call it. A sound, possibly? I'm not sure what the rules are for
describing a sound. But at any rate, I see where I was yesterday, which is way up that way. And then as I look even further left, I can not only see the place that I went to, which is right across the sound area. This area right here is the very northern tip of that far western island. Where'd it go? There it is. Barely see it. And then there's a major island that way. And then the Great Penghu Bridge is way out there. And then of course the Rainbow Bridge is right meow. Great Bridge is just beyond it. I'm not able to focus on that at the moment, but a lot of mist out, a lot of overcast. And the cool other thing that I saw was this abandoned village right here. There's so much abandoned stuff in this area, and it's so cryptic and unique. I've not seen a whole lot in this particular. I mean, this type of architecture is truly Asian, but what they use, they're using Cretaceous period sedimentary rock formations and mudstone and sandstone and everything to mix in with their wall materials and their tiling materials and things. And this of course sits right on the water, which is really amazing. Kind of a quiet day with nobody here. And as you can see, no windsurfers. At any rate, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer and see if the wind picks up, see if maybe some people come out, and maybe I'll get lucky. Okay, so I've found out what I need to do. I'm right here in front of this large, very ambiguous looking building that has absolutely no indication of being a windsurf rental location, but nevertheless, that's exactly what it is. So anyway, later today, they're saying at 3 o'clock, which is unfortunately after my checkout time at the hotel, I should come back and they'll hook me up, I guess. I think I actually spoke to the owner on his way out, who was locking the place up as that came up, unfortunately. But looks like I can see the landing dock or the loading dock for the windsurfing and things. I think that's where it's supposed to be. But anyway, well, I guess I'll come back at about 3, check this out, see if I can't secure myself another amazing experience, something that I haven't done before. Trying to secure a windsurfing thing. I think I'm having the lady behind me call her English-speaking friend. So anyway, see if this works. I hadn't thought about it until now, but I haven't really had to actually wait on anyone since I've been here. And that wasn't because I've been ordering people around and they just hop to it. I haven't been able to speak to anyone else, so my interaction with people on this trip has been limited. But if I had, I might have found out that things move pretty slowly here. I found myself playing with just about everything on the counter, and tapping out the drum beats to the soundtrack of the boredom that had overtaken me. But I eventually worked it out, and then it was off to the seas. Ah, it was great to be back out on the water again. Oh, but that's not me. This is me. The guy who's never had a windsurfing lesson in his life, but somehow managed to con these guys into letting me go for my trial run on their very heavy, very expensive equipment. This is not cool. I cannot windsurf. I totally lied to that guy. Windsurfing is not as easy as it looks. I tried a few more times to stay up long enough to catch some wind, and I actually succeeded in going a few feet once. But other than that, my time at the Penghu windsurfing festival was definitely going to be limited this year. We got the sail up now. Okay, what's he doing? I suck. Look, she can do it. Can I do it? So, as I watched the young able boarders coast along without any ability to tell me how they're doing it, I realized that I may as well dry off and head back to the airport. Didn't do very good. Next stop, Kaohsiung, to hop a train and head for the ancient city of Tainan.
We are now at Tainan.
Well, I just arrived here in Tainan. Tainan is about a half an hour away from Kaohsiung by train. The train's nice, it's very comfortable. Costs 125 Taiwanese dollars for the half-hour trip, and very comfortable. Very nice accommodations. People on there, nice and friendly and everything. And I've arrived here tonight to attend a fireworks battle, for lack of a better description, where people basically shoot each other with Roman candles and other such craziness. So I guess I gotta go find a hotel and find out where this thing is taking place.
Every year, the Yung Sui Fung Pai, or Fireworks Festival, is held in a new city. This year, 2012, it was held just outside of Tainan. It starts around sundown and goes until they run out of stock. Of course, they call it a quote-unquote festival, but really it's more like a citywide game of tempting fate by doing risky things in the name of explosive entertainment. And knowing what I know about Chinese calligraphy, they probably have one word that includes all of that in its definition. In any case, it's about a 20-minute cab ride to the part of town where everyone plays with fire, literally. And once there, I could hear all the action. Everywhere in the distance, fireworks were exploding against the night sky. I have no idea how one would have any accurate count of just how many individual explosions would ring out throughout the course of this event. But from about sundown to 3 a.m. or so, there was a continuum of bangs, pops, and blasts that made it seem just as though we were in a war zone.
I can really feel this old world feel to the streets here. Everything's cobblestone streets, and everything's very close in together. There's I don't know, there's like this merchant.
Oh yeah!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
And everybody's in good spirits. Yeah, it's pretty fun. All the merchants are right here on the streets, selling everything just as they, would. 200 years ago or so. Everything's decked out in lights and but everybody's a ham for the camera.
Every couple of blocks I'd come across one of these columns of fireworks that had been equipped on all four sides with upward slanted shells filled with thousands of individual rocket-style fireworks and fashioned with nearly a dozen shells per side. When these were ignited, only about 15 seconds of the fireworks could actually be seen before the smoke surrounded you and brought visibility down to about a couple of feet in front of you. And all the while, explosions were going off all around your head and body. It's a pretty frightening experience to behold.
So it looks like basically the entire town suits up for this fireworks show. Everywhere you look, it's fireworks. I do mean everywhere. Basically, you just look over top of buildings and you see just some really amazing fireworks going on every direction. The whole town's getting down tonight. Stop, right?
One really cool thing that they do here, besides stuffing towels into their helmets and walking around with enough padding to rival the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, is that they construct these handheld boxes over which they drape ropes upon ropes of these high-powered M80s and hold them up in a test of their bravery as they explode. There are no regulations to this particular event. There are no signs saying that you must be a certain age to enter the fireworks area. No one is going to stop you and make sure that you have the proper safety gear. And it's a total free-for-all in that at any point, anyone can come up to you and simply start showering you and everyone around you with explosive blasts. All of which are what we call in the States the good kind of fireworks. There are no sissy fireworks here. These all go boom, and they have the capacity to remove fingers and blind people.
That was perhaps the scariest thing I've ever stood next to. Here goes another one. It's insane, no warning on it. Not looking in that direction.
They do this several times until the ground is littered with the remnants of their challenge. After a couple more of these no-warning explosions, I'd had about enough of the nerve-wracking shock involved in standing around unprotected in this area. So along the way to chasing down more entertaining sights, I would come across these cool light displays that people had set up for the event. And in other places, people were setting off fireworks right outside their shops and homes on the street. It was a cool sight to see such a strange thing as flashing lights and loud noises to bring so many people together in this way. Hands down though, probably the coolest thing that I saw over the course of the entire event was when I actually got to see a few of the spectators engage in the action. What do you think? Good, yeah? After making my way back through the maze of fireworks battles and merchant stalls, I headed back out of town to catch a cab. But on my way, I saw one last cool event that takes place here. The slowly ascending fireworks lanterns. I think that's the technical term. I'm right in front of one of the lanterns that's about to take off. Now, generally these have fireworks attached to them. Looks like what they're doing right now is attaching fireworks to it. So it'll go way up in the sky, send a shower of sparks down. Pretty neat. Very nice. Just checked into the Dao Hotel, which is right across the street from the train station right here in downtown Tainan. Room came for about 700 NT, which is really pretty good for the location. I even got some juice and some munchies from this grocery store, which is right next door. So it's got a lot of convenient stuff here. Got a beer for tonight. Oh my God, I smell like fireworks and smoke. So I'm gonna jump into the shower. Alright, so I woke up this morning. I had been graced with rain, wonderful, refreshing rain coming down from the heavens. So I got my trusty umbrella from the store next to the hotel. Got some bread and some munchies to chew on the way. And I'm going to take a walking tour of all the temples in the city center area. Should be a lot of fun. Outside of shopping and eating at different restaurants, there's not a lot for tourists to do in Tainan. But if you enjoy history, culture, and spending the afternoon walking around and experiencing both, as all travel geeks should, you'll be right at home here. It's hard to tell from the commercial facades and the fashionable signage that has sprouted up all over the place here, but there really is a millennium worth of history here. You just have to go out and find it. Nicknamed the Phoenix City, Tainan is most famous for its seemingly endless period of redefinition and renewal. And tucked away behind the alleyways and side streets of Taiwan's oldest city are extensively preserved Tao and Buddhist temples. Tainan has more Buddhist and Tao temples than any other city in Taiwan. These influences came in from as far as Japan to the northeast and India from the far west. Tainan was affected by foreign rule as well. As late as 1661, the people of Tainan were celebrating their victory of having ousted many who'd come to settle here. The Dutch colonists, who'd used this place as a trading base for the Dutch East India Company, had been defeated, and this marked the last time that Taiwan would be threatened by Western rule. But the celebrating wouldn't last long. By 1684, the destructuring of the Dutch rule left the community disorganized and vulnerable, and using the commotion as an advantage, naval commander Shi Lang of the Qing dynasty seized power and their rule held up until the capital moved to its present-day location, Taipei. But the history of this region goes much farther than that. Carbon and radioisotope dating of the remnants collected at archaeological excavations suggest that the Tainan region was inhabited as far back as 30,000 years. But only the recent years are depicted in the city's temple walls and records. The temples themselves also have an interesting theme among them. It is said that 5 women and one of the concubines hung themselves from the rafters of the Matsu temple rather than to be traded to another emperor due to their deep love for the prior. Because of this, women have been coming here since that time to make offerings and prayers in exchange for good fortune in their own love lives. Couples are even allowed to attach their wedding photos to the walls to show their success and appreciation for the temple's blessings. In the God of War temple, Guangdi has been worshipped by people of Chinese Buddhism, Taoism, and even those studying Confucianism. The Lady Linshu temple was created and revered for its protection of women and children, or for women who wish to have children. Then there's the Dongyu temple, which is divided into 3 rooms, or 3 paths, metaphorically speaking. Each room or path is used to pray and earn the knowledge of moving on to the next path or section, and each has its own gods. I couldn't figure out what the second room was for, but it came complete with murals depicting disembowelments, mutilation, and torture. And then there's the grandest of them all, the Great Confucius Temple. Filled with antiques used for everything from making music to ritual sacrifice, this temple is all but in its prime. It's one of the few that requires a fee, but it's minimal, and the grounds are extremely nice. All in all, Tainan's history alone is worth a visit, and the experience of having walked in the same footsteps of the old emperors is certainly something that you'll take with you for many years to come.
Well, here I am on my final week of filming in Taiwan. I'm leaving the train station now, and I am in Chiayi, so I'm going to try and locate a motorbike that I'm going to rent, and then head up to the Alishan village where there's supposed to be this sea of clouds phenomenon that happens during either sunset or sunrise. And then there's also a bamboo forest that I wanted to check out for photography. So let's see, I don't know where to go right now for finding the bikes, but I think I'm going to try over by the hotels. I seem to get lucky whenever I do that. Chiayi seems to be just as busy as any other little town. It's probably about the size of, say, Tainan. So more and more I'm finding that to rent a motorbike in Taiwan, I don't know if they've had very bad experiences with Westerners or not, but they do not like renting. Meow, 谢谢. They do not, I don't know if they've had bad experiences, but they don't like renting to foreigners without specifically a Taiwan driver's license. You know, you can get by with an international license for a car, but for some reason, motorbikes, they just don't like renting them. However, I found a place that the other bike rental companies have told me will take an international license. And so I have located the spot. It's right directly across from the train station entry, and it's underneath a yellow banner. I wish I could get better directions than that, but I'll get the name when I get in there. Hopefully they speak English. This is where you want to go to rent a motorbike. And it's directly across the street from the train station, which is right there. All right, so I have bought gas. I'm all set up. The guys at that motorbike rental shop are great. So I strongly recommend when you come here, make sure you go by whatever shop that was. They didn't speak any English whatsoever, but they knew exactly what I needed. All you needed there was a passport. They didn't even ask me for my driver's license. The railway that leads up to the Alishan villages and Rayleigh trails and things is has not been repaired in time. It's probably better to take the bike up. It's going to be a very scenic route. It's going to be a good ride. I'll see if I can't get some footage along the way. That is the scenic railway trace up to the mountains, and that's where I'm headed now. I can't actually see the mountains from where I'm at, but I could see them a little while back. Went ahead and bought some fruit at one of the local markets because I don't know what's going to be up there, and I think there's a whole village up there, but we'll see when we get there. In any case, I'm all set. The road that I'm going to be taking is 159 all the way up. It's a very thin road once it gets out of town, so I'm told, and then once it gets there it's windy and treacherous, but equally as beautiful, I'm told. So that's the way we're headed.
The bikes hire out at about 200 NT per day. The drive out of town is pretty easy, and finding the sign for 159 isn't hard either. It's only about 5 kilometers away from the train station and leads off to the right at a major intersection, so you really can't miss it. Taking a bike instead of hiring a cab, it's also a highly recommended scenic way around. Doing this allows you to stop where you please and take photos and take in all the scenery. You can get a ticket onto a tour bus, but not only would I have absolutely no idea of how to go about doing that, I also wouldn't in my wildest dreams suggest that anyone who doesn't speak Chinese or that isn't tapped well into the Chinese way of life actually hop aboard one of these coaches anywhere in Taiwan. In most of the roads in and around town, there are motorbike lanes sectioned off from the roadway just for cyclists. Be mindful though, as some businesses think that this is the part of the road reserved just for their trash bin pickup. I'm not sure what was so amazing about this palm thicket that just started abruptly on the way up the mountain, but it was one of those cool things that you just had to get back and see again on the switchback. One of the things that I love about driving on switchbacks is that there are so many opportunities to see what you've just driven past, the distance you've covered, or maybe to get a second look at something that was amazing the first time. On the way up, I found this really cool little collection of houses overlooking Chiayi below. I wouldn't call this a neighborhood. Honestly, it looked a little more like a commune, or maybe just enough homes to house a large family or something like that. But whatever it was, it looks like they have the Asian equivalent to a cabin in the mountains. Continuing on, it was a veritable sea of palm forests and drop-offs. There was only the infrequent passerby, so unless there's a festival or a holiday, I can't imagine ever having to worry about traffic up here. But I can't caution you enough to take extreme care when driving. Even when traveling only slightly trodden paths like this one, at any time that one lone vehicle can come barreling down the road in front of you, and may well be in your lane when it comes. And this is when the problems start. Traffic laws are rarely enforced in the cities throughout Taiwan, and this is par for the course all throughout Asia in general, and even less so in the countryside. So watch yourself on these passes, just as you would on the straightaways.
So I'm about halfway up the mountain now, and behind me I noticed that there's a lot of the palm oil plantations and palm seed plantations and things like that, and while it's a beautiful view, I guess I just kind of wanted to point out that all of the deforestation that must have taken place here long ago is really evident. I mean, all the way up the mountaintop here is you know, it's obviously organized growth, which indicates, you know, obviously that
It's not native growth. It's been planted there. You know, obviously then that indicates that the natural foliage that was there prior to that had to have been either slashed and burned, or I mean, it's really significant. It goes all the way up the mountain. I'm not sure if this video is gonna bring it out enough, but it really is just staggering once you see. I mean, it's all green and appears to be you know, take on sort of a natural feel, but it really is evident that I mean, it's not a natural forest here. Now, having said that, all the way up along the sides of the roads and everything, that's where you'll see your primary rainforest. So as you're driving through the area, it will appear that the forest all around is natural, and only through those breaks will you notice that it's really been farmed just about as much as it can possibly be farmed. So I thought that was an interesting thing to point out. Throughout the rainy season here in Taiwan, all of this stuff is going to be flooded over and overspilling and everything. So what they do is they put half dikes and things like that. And where I've stopped now is at the foot of several different little unnatural waterfalls that have been implanted. It's pretty interesting. It's a great way to irrigate the water away from the roadways. So I was traveling along the mountain highway there, and I ran along this really interesting little tea growing village. I mean, they grow the regular palm oil and palm seed and things, but this little dramatic scene just kind of unfolded here. It's complete with waterfall, and it's nestled right into the hillside here. I had to drive around the corner to get a good shot of it all, but it's really amazing. Here I am in the middle of a tea plantation, and it's really interesting. It's all surrounded by bamboo on all sides, and I'm walking along this probably a 15-foot tall wall of stone, and it's really amazing. They put these really dry, with the crunchiest sort of twigs and things down by here. I'm not sure what that's about, but there's moss growing on near the bottom of the roots of all of these, and you get over to the bamboo and everything. It's really something. All throughout the drive, you'll come across houses where these people will be sitting outside their homes and waving to you and shouting things at you. But rest assured, it's all very pleasant. They don't get many visitors up here, so feel free to stop and say hello. If you don't, they won't be offended, but you might miss out on the unexpected surprises, like this amazing bird that was part of one family that hailed me over to say hello. It was gorgeous. After about 2 hours on the trip, you're going to look for this sign. This is the sign that will take you off the main road and bring you into a much rougher patch, but it's the way to get up to Alishan. It evens out after a while, but it's not intuitive. Once into the base of the village, it's like stepping into a time machine. The little old ladies sit and gossip just as they would hundreds of years ago.
I have no idea what this lady is talking about. But she seems pretty excited about something. There's this drink here. It's interesting. It's I just dropped my spoon. They make this spoon out of a plastic spoon and a straw, and then they make this gel type stuff. If I can get a spoon of it. It's kind of like Jello. Makes me think there's a dead animal bone in there or something ground up. But it's quite refreshing. It's really good. I mix it in with tea or something, so you can actually drink it. The drink tastes much better than the goo. But I guess it's the experience that the goo adds in there that makes it fun or something. I'm not sure. They're advertising various berries for sale here. I'm really not sure what that is, but it's probably a root. They're selling berries here, and they make berry or nut wine. Maybe that's an oil, and that's probably some kind of an oil. And they make these things. I'm not even gonna hazard a guess at what these are. These are just so strange. They're like, I don't know, maybe sugar blocks or something. Oh, it's soap. Awesome. Totally cool. Justicia Procembens handy soap. There you go. You look good. You look good. How much? Susu. Okay. Oh, 45. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, shishi. After I left the ladies to puzzle over the strange round-eyed giant that just pestered them into getting filmed, I headed to one of my goals for this trip, Penghu Historic Trail. This, of course, abuts the narrow-gauge train tracks of the Alishan Forest Train. The track itself is 762 millimeters wide, and it's been used to bring everything up this mountain that you'll see around you when you arrive. If I was going to wait on this train, I've been waiting for quite a while. Estimates tell me that it's going to be like a year or so before it's finished. The quiet and the calm about this place is really something. It's really nice. I'm told that this is a really amazing and beautiful ride when it's working. For times when the train is planned for trips, visit the train's website at railway.forest.gov.tw. Once up to this area, you can do all the hiking and camping you'd ever hope to do in Taiwan. Hello. And so what they've done instead is kind of closed down only to the locals, really. No foreign tourism here, and by that I mean Chinese as well. Yeah. And the idea being that it's a historical route. So what they've done is they've all these trails have popped up, and I guess they figure if you have the trails, you'll have the people, and if you have the people, they'll be hungry. So there are lots of restaurants here as well. The quaintness of this place, as well as the smiles of the locals, have long since been replaced by indifference. The seeds of corporate growth have been planted, and even a 7-Eleven has sprouted. Well, that's about all there is of the downtown area. The train station is right here, the main train station, and separate from the waiting area for the train station down the other way. This is it. This is all there is in town. It's one little road, and all the shops are located right here. There's little trinket shops for tourists, and there's lots of maybe a handful of restaurants and a couple of mom and pop little hideaway restaurants. Have little tables and stuff. And they always have these beehive things hanging, wasp hives hanging, which are pretty interesting. That one's pretty huge. And they always do these cute little
they paint gourds or they chisel little blocks of wood or something like that. This one's growing peppers and flowers and other such business over here. But this shop probably opens sometime in the tourist season. They've got all kinds of neat little herbs and stuff back there. They probably cook stuff up. And you know, basically it. It looks like a lot has actually gone down rather than to have been built up. For instance, it looks like there might have been a door, a stairwell to this door here that meets down on the street or something. And of course these older style doors here and everything, I mean, they're obviously authentic sliding wooden doors that are very typically Asian, a very traditional style. And they have tea and herb shops over here where they likely sell native herbs and things. This lady sells all kinds of souvenirs, but also has some local wines and everything that I was coming to check out. In any case, that's the town, and I've ordered some food. I found probably the only English-speaking person here, and she knew 3 words: rice, vegetables, and pork. So I'll give you 2 guesses on what I'm eating tonight. Yeah. And so here's my meal. After this, I'm going to head up to, I should have some energy from my energy bolt drink or something, whatever that is. And so finish this, and I head up the trail. Hopefully get some, it's about 5 o'clock now, so I'm running out of light, but hopefully I'll be able to get some more bamboo shots. Then I'm going to head up to Alishan, where I'll bed down for the night, as well as sleeping early, because I'm going to rise as early as I can to get up to wherever the Sea of Clouds phenomenon takes place. So I'm going to hopefully make that. After dinner, I rented a room at the Alishan Jade Hotel. The off-season brings in high prices, so I paid about 1,000 to 1,100 NT just for one night. But it's cozy. It has traditional wooden cabinetry. The bathrooms are very basic, and don't keep your hopes up for hot water. It also gets very chilly up in the mountains, so be sure you ask for an extra blanket as you check in. Okay, I've just woken up. It's about 3:20 right now, and in about 10 minutes I need to go downstairs, wait on a bus that'll drive me to a train that'll drive me to the lookout point for the sunrise, which somehow winds up taking 2 more hours. So I'm gonna pack up some fruit, and luckily I packed up all the gear that I needed to take last night, so should be good to go. This should be fun. Doesn't feel like it right now, but we'll see how it happens when I get there.
Okay, so what I have here is my camera is locked into the remote. The remote is set to 1-second intervals at endless frames, so it'll just keep shooting and shooting and shooting. Yeah, I'm shooting. So can you like?
Beautiful.
Yeah. This is the guy that screamed on a bullhorn right into my ear.
Beautiful.
Right. Can you duck? Can you duck? I'm shooting. Ha 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 ha. That's hilarious. Anyway. What I'm doing is shooting 1-second intervals at an endless frame rate, and catching this lenticular formation that comes off the summit of this very, I don't know, magnificently jagged set of mountains over here. There's a lot of movement in these clouds, and I've only got a few minutes left before I have to pack up and head back to the train, or else I'll miss it. So that's where I'm concentrating my shots at. At any rate, I shoot at JPEG Basic, because all this is going to do is going to just cycle through. I'm not going to try and edit these down or anything like that. Looks like my train is about ready to board. So I got to close up and go. Hope I've got enough to put in the video there.
I did get enough for a short set, but Mr. Bullhorn still made an appearance. See if you can catch him. back on the train again and headed to Changhua this time. And basically just showed up at the train station, bought a ticket, and got right onto a train. It's the way it's happened for most of the trip, actually. I pretty much jumped from one train to the other one. As soon as I walked into the terminal, there was a train ready to leave. So I think it's probably more an idea that there's just a lot of trains leaving all the time, rather than it's just coincidentally beneficial for me. Tainan's a very interesting city. Everybody here is very pleasant, engaging. No surprise though, it's not different from many other places in Taiwan. People are just unbelievably nice, very helpful. So I'm headed to Changhua. Changhua is right next door to a little village called Lugang. And Lugang is prized for its old world traditions. So if Tainan was the old world capital, Lugang would probably be its village counterpart. It's supposed to be the link to the old traditional style of crafts and things like that. So it should be interesting. Later on, it's going to be dark, so that's when they're going to let off the lanterns for the famous Lantern Festival. Lanterns have an interesting history as well. It's said that as the lanterns, history goes, the people that started sending them off were mountain people, montagnards, people of the hinterland, and they would send them up as a warning so that the people, if the people in the lower portion of the mountains would get invaded all the time, so they would light them up, send them skyward, so that they could warn the people on the higher end of the mountain that the attack was imminent, and so they could, go in higher or dig themselves in, fortress themselves off in some way to protect from the onslaught. This is the Festival of Lights, the Lantern Festival here in Lugang, Taiwan. And they just turned off the lights. I guess the power went out, huh? All right, these are really fascinating. What people have done is taken the basic spherical shaped lantern, which had just a semi-rigid frame, and they've really taken it to some extreme. And they've definitely done some copyright infringement as well. But in any case, I think they're just making their favorite lanterns, and turns out to be Snoopy's and Mickey Mouse's and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's pretty cool. This was the first street that I came to after exiting the bus. And while it seems like a lot, I was in for a much brighter, much grander, and much louder entertainment before the night was over. Like the fireworks festival that I just left in Tainan, the Lantern Festival takes place in a new location each year. This year, Lugang had been chosen because a local football team had won the international competition for their home team and was based in a school nearby. Banks and local businesses normally pool money for the construction of the larger lanterns, as they require a lot of welding, wiring, and fabric sewing, in coordination with the timing of motored robotic movements. But the smaller, simpler ones are generally made by enthusiastic locals or home businesses looking for an opportunity for cheap advertising by placing the lanterns outside their shops or including signage with their creations. It's kind of like a warped alien Christmas Neverland mix or something, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But it's all in the name of celebration. If you're planning on visiting the Lantern Festival, it's best to book ahead. Even though I booked ahead, I still had problems, and my room was switched. So, fair warning, even though you book ahead, wealthy Chinese tourists can pretty easily talk a shifty hotel manager out of a reservation with the right motivation. Alright, I'm making my way down. Hi.
Hi.
I'm currently making my way down what's called Breast Toucher Street. Breast Touching Street, I think. It's called Breast Touching Street because not in the intuitive way that Western thinkers might assume, but the street is so thin that nary an old lady or woman can walk past each other without bumping uglies or touching parts or something. And I think in The Lonely Planet it said it's the healthy alternative to just turning around and calling it Butt Touching Street. It doesn't have the same ring to it.
Wanqiaojie is the Chinese translation for Lantern Festival. The festival is more than 300 years old, but only in the last 3 decades has it been such a coordinated event. And while it's known to be a tradition throughout mainland China, it's only seen in this type of celebration here in Taiwan. And 2012 being the Year of the Dragon, the governor sponsored the event and ensured that there was a corresponding theme. It spread out over the course of 2 weekends, and while it takes place all over the island during this time, nowhere is the Sky Lantern release, or Qiandang, more spectacular than in Penghu. Penghu is a bit farther north than Changhua, but it's set up about the same. And while this part of the celebration has taken a bit of a glamorous turn, the Penghu Sky Lantern Festival is no less awe-inspiring. It's just a bit more traditional. It does, however, include only one kind of lantern. You saw this from last night's footage of the fireworks festival in Tainan. The idea is to write a wish on a piece of paper and attach it to the lantern. If it floats away without deflating and crashing down, your wish stands a good chance. But, as is common, many wishes have ended up catching other lanterns ablaze in the sky, where they fall to the earth and raze some hapless bystander's tent to the ground in a fiery mess.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Taiwan High-Speed Rail. This train is bound for Taipei.
Reaching speeds upwards of 165 kilometers per hour, Taiwan's high-speed rail brings me to my final destination. The technology for the HSR comes straight out of Japan with Shinkansen engineering. Built mostly for a Taiwan that doesn't quite exist yet, this train may be fast, but it's a bit expensive, and the old train, while cost-efficient, is a snail compared to this speeding bullet. So where's the middle ground? What does it matter when you've got the option for either? Nevertheless, riding the HSR is a great complement to your visit here. And if you want to skip the middle ground and go straight to either end of the country, this train will get you there in a couple of hours. Taipei today is a shining improvement on what it was in the yesteryear of Chinese rule. Congested streets, polluted air, and trash flowing through the city like tentacles of encroaching doom. Today, you can hardly walk a single block without seeing an assortment of recycling bins, the traffic holds at a constant and functional rate, and the litter is all but non-existent. Even the buildings are renewed with a spectacular sense of creativity. And it seems that China has grown jealous of this amazing leap forward without the aid of its overbearing communist martial law. In 1995, out of its angst for the growing mentality of independence in Taiwan, China launched several missiles to within 25 kilometers of its coast. But that plan backfired as the people rose up even stronger that following year, with free elections birthing the dawn of a new era for the then leader Li Tenghui. And because this move exposed China for their catastrophically miscalculated bluff, there's been a heaping helping of bad blood ever since. Nevertheless, Taipei was given the opportunity to be the country's proving grounds, and as yet, they seem to have bounced back with amazing vitality. The economy typically does well. Its market always shines in development, technologies, and production, and its exports can be seen all over the world, bringing more evidence to its success story with each new fiscal year. And if that isn't a good enough metaphor as is needed to describe Taipei's commanding stance over the neighboring economies, the many architectural, artistic, historical, and contemporary contributions to the region's more dynamic offerings surely are. And speaking of historic and architectural offerings, the Grand Hotel should definitely be part of your tour if you come here. Constructed in the 70s, the Grand Hotel was realigned with its 1952 rendering of an old-world Chinese high-rise. It abuts the Keelung River and is itself a tourist attraction, offering great views of the city and mountains. It boasts tennis courts, year-round fitness area and swimming pool, a driving range, sauna, and 8 in-house restaurants. It's also on the way to the Shilin Night Market. The last stop on my way around Taiwan is from its highest point. In fact, it's the world's highest point, From the crest of a building, that is. Was, until 2008. But from its inception 10 years earlier, it was the tallest building on Earth. It's since been outdone in height, but it still has one trick up its sleeve. The bamboo-lichened construction included in its drawing plans a pressure-controlled elevator which gives it an upward speed of more than 1,000 meters per minute, taking just 40 seconds to travel 89 stories. Towering more than 500 meters over the country's capital, Taipei 101, or Taipei International Financial Center 101, as it's seldom referred, took more than 6 years to build. The observation deck offers 360 degrees of stellar views and costs 350 NT, while one floor up, it costs 4,500 NT. It's pricey, but that doesn't stop the hordes of visitors from forming queues every sunny day in order to get to this windowless vista. In my all-time favorite TV travel series, Pilot Guide's Globe Trekker, Megan McCormick came to this tower when it was still under construction, so it was cool to have been able to visit and follow up on her experience here. In a way, this is the perfect place to end my trip. I've seen both coastlines, been to its northernmost and southernmost points, seen its islands and mountains, and gone just about everywhere else one can go in Taiwan, on its surface. But while I may have covered a lot of ground, to use a pun, I've never seen it from above. And so it's fitting that I leave you here, at the very height of Taiwan's achievements.